And I know people feel that, well, you're only showing one side of your life and people make things look different than they are.
Sure.
But that was always the case, even before social media, right?
Absolutely.
We didn't know exactly what was going on behind closed doors, in people's homes, right? People, present a certain way. So this is no different. I mean, it allows them to go deeper with that.
Yeah.
And it can be scary. You don't know who you're talking to, right? You think the person's presenting one way and they could be completely different.
Yeah.
But hey, welcome back to Love, Growth, and Narratives. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Frederick.
And on this 54th episode, we're going to be talking about something kind of fun and kind of light. We're going to talk about social media. Now, we're used to bashing social media and talking about the negative impacts, what people put on there, and we're comparing ourselves to it, or we're spending too much hours on it away from people, and we're being inundated with all kind of negative information. Yeah. However, there's also an upside to social media. I love social media, right? It's been a space for me to kind of open up. I was a very introverted, inward type of person, and social media has given me a platform to kind of just open up, and I think it's spilled over into my personal life. And so we're going to be talking about social media and what the good things that we get from it.
Yeah, and I tell you, because I get so frustrated with a lot of the outrage, a lot of the filtered pictures and all this other kind of stuff. And it really took a nice exercise of saying, hold on, this is actually a good thing that just has some dark sides to it.
So you mentioned filters.
Yeah.
I use filters, okay? I don't think I go crazy with them. I just use it for a little bit of lighting. And I know that if I don't have makeup on already, then the filter gets out of hand. It puts a ton and looks crazy. But if I have makeup on, it just puts lighting in certain places. And I really don't see it any different than photography or media was before the camera and the filter came along, because they touched up things and they added lighting and they put soft lighting and they put something on it in different ways, just that now we can actually put filters. So, but anyway, I just wanted to address that.
Okay. And that's fair, as long as you don't become cartoonish.
Yes.
And some of these, it's just like, it doesn't even look like you anymore.
Right,
if you're doing it to enhance your looks, fine.
Yeah.
But to change your looks, that's when it gets a little ridiculous.
Yeah. If I learned how to put my makeup on in a way that highlighted the areas that need lighting, maybe I could. But anyway, I like social media. Like, I find relaxation in it at the end of the day, especially like when I'm back at work. Like in the summertime, I'm probably using it too much throughout the day.
Yeah.
But on a work day, it's like I can't do it all day long. So right before bed, I enjoy it. Social media, it gives me an outlet. First of all, I've learned historically so many things that I didn't know before about history, on social media. And also, I like to follow, because I'm really big on different cultures, I like to follow different cultures on there. I know that's just a small representation. No one's representing the entire culture, but what are they talking about? What's important to them? What things are they celebrating? Like, I love that kind of stuff. And so for me, social media has been absolutely fantastic. There have been some hard parts, but for the most part, I can say a lot of positive things about it. Like, again, I think I've mentioned this on previous episodes where I found my cousin on there. We didn't, I knew him of him and I had pictures of him because I'm the older one, but he didn't really know me, and I was looking for him, right? And he had a very common name. My last name Moore is pretty common too.
Yeah.
So I just dug through. It probably took me a good 15, 20 looking for Justin, and I found him and we connected, and now we talk and everything. So I love it. I love it. And I love reconnecting with people from high school and everything else like that. It wouldn't have probably happened. Like, I didn't go to the reunions. I was so scared and shy. I didn't go to any of the reunions. So social media helped me, reunite with some of the people from the past.
And I've gotten that as well out of social media. For a long time, I was, I didn't get into it. I was probably one of the last people I know to, do Facebook and Instagram and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, like you, when I left high school, I went to the Army. I was gone. I didn't. And when I came back, I really didn't reconnect with people from high school. Myself being also introverted, even though you don't believe that. you know, I lost touch with a lot of people, and being able to see them and see what they're going through, and you're seeing people that you were teenagers with, and sometimes in childhood, and you see them with their families and kids and all this kind of stuff. I think that's awesome. These are things that I never would have seen before, because, before all of this stuff, there wasn't a real way to connect unless you saw people. Right. You could write letters, but then you need to have their address. And back then, you couldn't just take a picture and put it up on something. You took a picture, you had to get it developed, and then, if you developed more copies, then you could mail it to them or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But having social media where you take a picture and just and immediately upload it, where everyone can see, it's great. It really is.
I mean, I like it. I know that people talk about some of the negative parts of it, but it could be so, I don't know, it's just a way to keep up with what's going on, to see people's lives. And I know people feel that, well, you're only showing one side of your life, and people make things look different than they are.
Sure.
But that was always the case, even before social media, right?
Absolutely.
We didn't know exactly what was going on behind closed doors, in people's homes, right? People, present a certain way. So this is no different. I mean, it allows them to go deeper with that.
Yeah.
And it can be scary. You don't know who you're talking to, right? You think the person's presenting one way and they could be completely different.
Yeah.
But the upside of it, I think it's really worth it. I mean, and if you get your algorithm right, then you can have a really good time. Like I remember when I first,
take some work.
It can. But when I didn't like that they switched over to doing it that way, especially when I had a lot of followers. I wanted my followers to see everything I pushed out, but then they changed that. But when it came to TikTok, at first I was just cracking up. I mean, just people telling jokes and doing dances, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
It was funny, and I would just be up all night. Honestly, it would, that little message would come up. I know you don't do TikTok, but there's a little message that would come up and say are you still there? Should you, something you should go to sleep, and a little person with a video would come on.
Yeah.
But I just had the best time watching things and cracking up, the pet stuff. There's just so many creative and talented people out there, and people with so much knowledge. And I am someone who actually enjoys going in the comments as well, because I've learned things that I've gone to research, or, I've had arguments, and I've also had great discussions.
Yeah.
I've met people off of Instagram, met them in real life, hung out, worked out with them. It's just been, there's a lot of positive parts of it for me, learned a lot about medical things. People are talking about things that they're not talking about in your everyday life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And one of the major things is that we've been able to democratize entertainment, information, all these types of things. Look at our podcast right now on YouTube. Before that, there's no way we would be able to have this conversation and broadcast it out to other people.
Yeah,
you
across
look
the
at
world.
Yes. You look at prior to social media, if you wanted to have a career in entertainment or be a thought leader, anything like that, you had to go into studios, you had to go through gatekeepers, you had all this kind of stuff. Issa Rae didn't have to do that.
Right.
She put herself on YouTube with, what was the show called?
Awkward Black Girl, I think?
Yeah, it was Awkward Black Girl.
Yeah.
And people went crazy over it.
Right.
And based on that, the studios were watching, well, she's obviously talented.
Right.
So let's go ahead and put her on TV. How would someone like her have been able to do that prior to that? You look at comedians like Jay Farrow, how he used to do, a lot of stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. Would he have been discovered if it hadn't been for stuff like that?
Right.
And so it really broke down barriers where if you feel like you have something to say, or you feel like that you can be entertaining, you have a path to do that without trying to go through a studio.
Right. Absolutely. And also, just getting, like you're saying, getting the entertainment out there, even music, right?
Yes.
Some songs I only know because of TikTok.
Oh, absolutely.
I only know, or Instagram. I mean, a lot of the stuff is all the same. But I only know because of social media,
Right.
even though it's just a snippet of it. And I'm like, that song is viral. You know what I mean? And then I
Yeah.
hear the whole song. I'm like, oh, okay. I know
Yeah.
that's right. Because how many people really listen to the radio nowadays? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't listen to the radio.
I haven't
you
listened to
know?
the radio in years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find like it's a cool way to do that. And then there's so many ways to make money through
Yes.
social media, right? Selling things, just
Yes.
talking about it or selling your own product. I mean, my goodness, there's so much benefit to it.
And I tell you, prior to all of this, the big beef from a lot of people was you got to go through the gatekeepers to get anything done. If you're a musician, you've got to get with a major label. If you're an actor, then you've got to find a way to Hollywood. You've got all of these things. If you're a person who has an opinion that you want to put out there, you would have to find, somehow to get onto a show or something like that where you can put your opinion out or become a columnist or something like that.
Right.
Now you don't have to worry about it. You just hook up your phone camera and go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is how we got started was,
Right. Yeah.
the basic way. There's no gatekeepers.
Right.
And that's what I love about it.
Right. And people are just so creative, the things that they decide to
Yes.
share.
Yes.
Like these little known things, like sometimes we don't know what is the tab on the drink for. Like,
Right.
did you not know it's created
Oh,
for this?
man.
Like I love watching those,
Yeah.
Just hearing from people in other countries, even though I know a lot of the times they don't have the freedoms that we have here in the US to say and put out, but I still do learn a lot and see
Yes.
things that underground news that I really appreciate, things that are not being widely televised. And
Yes.
I don't know, it's inspirational.
Yeah.
It's sad that that you have to learn so much about your own history through
Yeah.
there, as opposed to you went through to school and I went, I got an undergrad and a master's degree and still didn't learn some of these things. But I'm grateful that I'm learning them now and that information is out there and it's at my fingertips. Like,
Yeah.
and I can look something up and find somebody else who has that same issue and they can
Right.
talk about their experience. I mean, and on the brighter side, like if you want to travel, you can go watch people's videos about that
And
place.
we do. We've done that
A
with,
lot. Yes.
with when we travel.
Yeah,
I want to see what
Belize,
this
everywhere,
resort
yeah.
is and what this attraction is,
Yeah.
this type of thing to
Yes.
do. And
And
yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
from everyday people,
Yes.
not like the company trying
Right.
to make it look a certain way,
Yeah.
right? Like so. I mean, even though people do that too, but
Yeah.
it's good. You just get more of an honest, I feel like, review on things.
Yeah.
And or just how it's like it's catapulted certain people's businesses. Like
Yes.
that one guy, I cannot think of his name right now, who's very famous for going to eat at a person's place and then just
Oh
sitting
yeah,
on
yeah,
like his
yeah.
kid's little tiny chair and talking
Yeah.
about it, and boom, there's like 500 people
Yeah,
lined up to go
I
get
know who
food.
you're talking about because
Yeah.
his brother used to be an MMA fighter.
Oh, okay.
I can't, but I know who you're talking about. You're
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Detroit. Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the awesome things is you can put yourself out there, and if enough people like it, then you've created your own audience. The other good thing about that, and I'm sure Issa Rae was a huge beneficiary of that, was when HBO and everyone else came around. Now she's in a bargaining position because she's like, well, I don't need you guys. I can just
Right.
stay on YouTube and
Right.
do this,
Yeah, yeah.
So it put her in a bargaining position where she wasn't. She didn't have to worry about making them happy.
Yeah.
They had to make her happy, and I think that's a great thing. Another thing was in terms of news, because we were stuck, and especially for those of us that are Gen X and baby boomers, we were stuck with a few news stations, and then CNN and MSNBC came out, but you're still getting really slanted news and not getting it from different angles. And because of YouTube as well as Instagram and others, you can get information from different angles. You get random people who may have been at that event who
Yes.
say, here's what I saw.
Right. Yeah.
And these are perspectives you would not have seen otherwise.
Right. Exactly.
You just wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of the great things about social media is that you don't need a studio, you don't need a TV station. you can just go out there and just say what you have to say.
Right. And some people aren't even using it for that reason, to get their information out to the masses. Some people are just like very select about who follows them and who they follow. And they share family stuff.
Yes.
Right. Because people live, far apart sometimes. And that's a way to share, like showing pictures of the kids, the grandkids and whatnot. And I like that. These platforms, they save it for you, right?
Yes.
And I love that Facebook has the memory thing. I think Instagram does too, but I can never figure that one out.
Right.
But that I can go back and look at, what did I do on this day 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago? Like, it's kind of cool to see that.
It is.
And it's weird when you're actually wearing the same thing, or you like going to the same spot. It's just interesting to see. So I enjoy it. It helps you remember birthdays, for goodness sake.
It does.
Right?
Because I would have forgotten, but I tell you, recently where it really helped me was when, we went down to Atlanta to visit people in my family. Had I not seen regular pictures of them on Facebook,
you wouldn't recognize them, right?
some of them I probably would not have been able to recognize,
because it's been so long.
Right. But not only was I able to recognize them, but hey, how's your daughter? Know, what's going on with this? And I can have an actual conversation because I've been watching them and what they've been doing and their growth and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it really made things easier, because I couldn't imagine, had I gone to, this is on my mother's and father's side, I don't know if I would have recognized a lot of those people.
Wow. Yeah.
There's some people that I hadn't seen since I was, probably 10 years old.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I remember. Because a lot of the people there would say to me, "I'd recognize you from Facebook." You know what I mean? Like me,
exactly.
Recognize me. So
exactly,
that is, it's really cool to actually have this thing that is created. I had MySpace. I didn't really understand it that well. I had it for a hot second.
I never did MySpace. I just it was just. I like I said, I was a late comer to social media. I was kind of against it, and then when I was in government, I was nervous about putting anything out there at all other than family pictures, and so I just kind of stayed away from it, until I left government. But the other thing is, when I have a problem doing something, I'm looking for a video. I because we order things in the mail and half the time the directions are garbage. Well, let me find a YouTube video where someone has already shown how to do this.
Right.
Awesome. Or if you're thinking about buying something, you can go on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, and see reviews of it. And so then you can kind of decide, do you still want to invest your money into it?
Right. And I've also used it quite a bit for work reasons, right? Especially moving to kindergarten this school year. Like over the summer, I just looked up kinder stuff, kinder videos, kinder pictures all over the world. I mean, amazing ideas that people have. It's so creative. Just saved it. I just hit save, and it was just a collection. And then as I am like, oh, I need some math, I go back in my collection and look and see what to do and make it happen. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, I've used it in my career as well in cybersecurity. Sometimes new threats or new technologies come out and you hear bits and pieces about it, but it's like, I really don't understand it. I can normally find several videos explaining it from different angles. It's like, oh, okay, now that makes sense. Now it makes sense. And so, yeah, it's awesome for that.
Right. And to be able to quickly speak to someone across the world. Like,
yes.
I remember when I was really into the fitness thing and I lost all this weight and I gained all these followers, right? And I was going to be, a fitness instructor. And people would just message me from all over the world asking for advice.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was interesting because then I had to think about, they were from a different culture and maybe they weren't allowed to have the freedoms that, we have here to do certain things or to eat certain things, or maybe in their culture, carbs was really big. Like we had so many discussions, or I even came across people here who were in food deserts. I spoke to people who didn't have their teeth, honestly, for whatever reason. I couldn't remember all the different reasons why they didn't have teeth. So it was hard for them to chew certain things. And we talked about how we can make smoothies and all. I mean, I was like able to help people, right? That I would not have been able to help that many people in different places from me so easily. And I thought that was powerful. It felt good to be connected to different people around the world and hear different stories. And that, I think that's the first time I had even heard about food deserts because I didn't understand it. I was like, well, what do you mean just go to wherever? They're like, no, it's like 25 miles away, Trader Joe's or whatever. And I'm like, what? You know?
Yeah.
So I learned so much on there from different kinds of people. And I've just found it to be pretty amazing. You know, even if it's overwhelming when certain things are constantly in your feed, you can kind of change that. You can search
and that
for
was
stuff.
but that was one of the other things I wanted to talk about because sometimes after a stressful day and you've been reading and watching some pretty tough things on the news and you know in other parts of media, sometimes you know there's certain YouTube channels, certain Instagram people that I go to just have a good laugh, have something where, look, I'm not trying to be educated. I just want some mindless humor.
Yeah.
You know, some of the memes that come out. I mean, you know, so the creativity that people have can really break some of the tension in the day. Because I know that, you know, a lot of the complaints are that, you know, there's so much anger and outrage on social media. But if you look at the other side of it, the happier side or the sillier side,
Right.
sometimes you just don't want to be educated. Sometimes you don't want to think. Sometimes you just want a mindless laugh.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And there's plenty of that. You find the right YouTube channels or Instagram, you know, Instagram people or whatever, and you can just relax.
Yeah, I agree. And there's also self-help. There's so many great self-help pages.
Absolutely.
Just in little bits because people don't feel like they have the time to, you know, listen to an entire book or even an entire audio. But it's just, sometimes it's just this little phrase that you heard that just changes your whole life financially, you know, all of that. It's just so much out there. It really is. And it should help us feel more connected. But I guess it all depends on how you use it, right? Like it can be very dividing.
Right.
But if you can you control your algorithm, right? And then you don't have to look at anything. You can, and if you just start, you know, searching for certain things, that will become your new algorithm anyway. So I think people should use it, you know, in a positive way. Like make sure that they do that and not just, I mean, I don't think young kids need to be on it as much as they are.
Yes, that's true.
Right.
That is true.
And if they are, then the parents should be controlling like what they see. Cause there are some really great things, learning things, like teaching you how to read, helping you with, there's people who just go on there and help you solve math problems.
Absolutely.
Live. I'm like, wow, that's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think it could be used in a really great way. You just have to be responsible like anything else.
Yeah. It's tough when people do kind of use it as a babysitter, but I got to be honest with you. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, sometimes the TV was a babysitter. Yeah. But we had Schoolhouse Rock, you know, which was about one of the only things that we had from an educational perspective. You know, we had 3-2-1 contact, but you probably didn't see that because you were out west here. Yeah. But in terms of having all of that stuff, there are so many channels with so much information from so many different angles and so many different levels. And you can really get so much out of it. I've learned, I can't imagine, I can't even think about how many things that I've learned just from watching an Instagram video or a YouTube video and hearing. I love to hear alternate perspectives. And what it does is it's not like I'm going to listen to it and I'm just going to believe it. But what it does is it sends me down a rabbit hole of research. But had I never heard that, I never would have gone down that rabbit hole. I never would have been able to learn all that nuance. And so there's so much to it. Right. There's so much to it. And I think a lot of people who grew up in social media, they don't realize how valuable it is. They don't realize the advantage that they have right now, because when we didn't have that, it did, you know, we get so much more out of it.
Yeah. Some people don't think to even use it in the best ways that it can be used. You know, they just, but I mean, so it's always up to the individual, like anything else, right? To make something more of a positive experience. But, You know, I can see how it can get out of hand, right?
Yeah.
Moderation with everything, but I couldn't imagine it being gone, you know?
No, I don't want it to go away. And so I know that in my frustration sometimes on the stuff that's on social media, you know, there have been times when I wanted it to go away, but if I thought about it, I really didn't. And so I do wonder for a lot of the people who rail, and it's funny because people rail against social media on social media. So it's like,
exactly.
like you're using it to say how much you hate it. You know, it's like, where else would you do that? Would you go buy a car you hate? You know, you go to a restaurant you can't stand. It's like, well, if you're out there saying it, then there is some value in social media, and sometimes we just have to realize that. With anything good, there's going to be trade-offs. There's nothing that comes without trade-offs. Nothing.
Yeah.
But I love it. But I also, and especially with the two of us, we also take time to go and see people.
Yes.
So this isn't our only thing.
Right.
And so for the people who social media is all they have, and they're not getting in front of people in person, then I can see where that can be a bit difficult.
Yeah, that could be a problem, right? Like with anything, you need to, even if you're a person who's always around people, sometimes you just need to be to yourself.
Absolutely.
Too much of anything is, can be bad for you. But another thing I like is that, especially if you live in a small town or you're introverted or maybe your interest is not in your circle, that you can find people online that have that same interest as you.
Yes.
Be like kind of in a club or, so I've done that a lot, with like.
It doesn't make you feel as alone.
Yeah. And then you can ask questions specific to that need. Like I'm in kinder groups. I'm in Black teacher groups.
Right.
I'm, in just teacher groups or around a certain curriculum. And it just, you just get so much from it. Or it could be just something else completely different. Like I remember when I was going through the hysterectomy, I joined groups where people had hysterectomies and they could talk about it. And so some of us were in there who were planning to have it and some had it already. And they were talking about all the different types of things and that you might need and experiences you have. That was like incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go out and try to search for a community and go to a meeting at 6:00 at night on Thursdays, 2 hours away or whatever. I could do that like within the phone.
Yeah.
Your computer. So I think it's great.
And another platform that you don't really use, but I've used a lot during my career is LinkedIn because, and I don't know if maybe it's more of a nerdy platform, but for people in technology, LinkedIn is everything. And with a lot of the recent things that have been going on with people losing their jobs, especially in government, where you have people coming together to make sure that someone has a job. I've seen on LinkedIn where they're writing posts about someone they know and helping them to find a job. And you have a group of people, kind of say, hey, let's help get this person into another position. That's something that would not have happened without social media.
Right.
It just wouldn't have happened. So you get all of that.
I always thought LinkedIn was like if you're looking for a job.
No.
Did it initially start that way?
I'd have to go back in my memory to the beginning.
Resume up. That's what I always thought it was.
Yeah.
So that's why I joined.
Well,
but I think
LinkedIn,
I joined now because I was trying to go on something that you were on. But
for a lot of people like myself in technology, LinkedIn is the social media platform. And so you have people who use LinkedIn like other people use Facebook or Instagram. They put their family pictures and outings and stuff like that on LinkedIn. And so you do have people that have used it for that. But, at least from my experience, it's been more people who are on the technology side. I'm sure that there's others, but I just haven't been connected with those. But yeah, definitely people on the technology side. LinkedIn is really your Facebook.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that there's something for everyone to use. And even there's platforms. I forget the exact name of this one platform, but it's something like Pay Nothing. It's called something like that where people just put up, I have these 4 chairs and you might
Oh
have a
yeah,
table and
yeah,
you just trade
yeah.
it, like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you've got Let Go, and it used to be called something else some years ago, and then they changed it to Let Go. And yeah, you can go on there, and people have all different kind of stuff. Nextdoor does that as well. Nextdoor does, where you can sell things locally, or
Right.
if you have an apartment for rent or whatever the case may be. Whereas before that, if you were looking for an apartment, you would have to go get a newspaper and
Yeah.
look through the paper,
Right.
and people don't realize how
Yeah.
painful that used to be.
Yeah.
And what about for the person putting on the ad in the first place? Then you gotta go to the newspaper, and whereas now you just type up your ad, hit send, and it's there.
Yeah.
It just makes life so much easier.
Right.
So
So I would say to people out there, if you have been kind of negative about social media and you've been talking negative about it, okay, you might have some truth
yeah.
there.
Even though there's validity in that.
Like, also take the opportunity to use it for good things. Use it for whatever it is you need, like recipes, how to make something. You want to learn about something. You want to learn about another group of people. You want to learn about another place. Like, my goodness, there's so much on there. So use it to your advantage,
Yeah, and like I said, especially for people of our age range, people who are on the Gen X or baby boomer, or even a little bit after that, people who didn't have these types of platforms before. Just remember what it was like before. Not to say that there's not a whole lot of bad in social media, because there is, but I would say that there's actually far more good on social media than there is bad. And that's one of the things that we have to remind ourselves, because I know, just me personally, I have to remind myself of that, because I go down these rabbit holes on negative news and all this other kind of stuff, and it's just like, I hate social media, and then you have to bring yourself back and say, look at all the wonderful things that I get from it.
Right. And if you say, well, why do people have to record everything? They don't. And most people don't. Most things that happen are not recorded. So,
and you don't have to watch it either.
Yeah, you don't have to watch it, right? But some people do like to share positive things that they're doing and that's going on, because it inspires other people. And I see nothing wrong with that. Like,
I see everything right with that, to be honest with you. I think that's great.
Right. And some people just like to look. They have a social media. They don't put much up there. They just want to see everybody else's stuff. That's
the way I started.
Yeah.
That's the way I started. I was just a consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't contribute anything, but now I'm also a contributor as well.
Yeah.
And like I said, we would not be able to have this podcast without social media.
Right.
So, and whatever podcasts you watch and stuff like that, just remember that before that, you would not have been able to know these people. There was no way for that to happen.
Right. Yep. So it's a good thing, go out there and use your social media. Not go out there, but right there on your phone at night, whenever you can. Right. Don't get addicted.
Yeah.
Don't get addicted, because it is addictive.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you see yourself going down those crazy rabbit holes like I do and getting frustrated with social media, step back, take a deep breath, and remember that time you needed instructions on how to, put that couch together or whatever, put that bed together, and you found a video that helped you do that.
Yep.
So
quickly, very quickly. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I think we've gone down the road enough on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything else before we let it go?
I don't, but just, share, keep sharing our podcast, keep, making comments, please make comments about different things. I know that, the more serious topics, we tend to get quite a few comments on that, but we'd like to hear your comments on some of the lighter stuff too.
Well, I'll tell you what I would like to hear or like to see in the comments is what are some of the things that you do that bring joy to your life or make you feel better off of social media? Because, sometimes I'm looking for those things.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So thank you so much for joining us once again. So this will be the close of the 54th episode of Love, Growth, and Narratives. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Frederick.
And take care, and we will see you back next week.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.